Welcome tonight on this second to last day of May. Hope you all doing well. This is Callan Diggs here. For those of you who don't know, I know this is late for some of you, but there's many people in different parts of the world, so let's see how it goes. Well, I want to start uh, with a topic, and this is kind of reflective of what's going on in the uh, current world. And we see that uh, specifically from the U.S., since I am American, a lot of people are suffering financially. You know, uh, in some parts of the US, gas is almost $7 for a gallon, and inflation has continued to rise, hasn't stopped. And, there's no baby formula, that's also a big problem. Many people uh, uh, have a lot of debt, and wages are not wages are stagnating while the cost of living is increasing. In northern states, thankfully, we're starting to enter into the warmer weather, but still in a lot of northern states at nighttime it gets cold. And I think many of people are foregoing using any type of heat because you know energy has become more expensive, resulting from this uh, war, this kind of war slash energy crisis that has been going on between the U.S., UK, and Russia. What's interesting is when I see the news from another country, being here, and looking at, my fellow Americans, unfortunately, not happy with the current situation. And I just wonder, what will they do eventually? You know, uh, I think there is some merit in this, protesting, and there's some merit there, But one thing I've always learned is that people are going to be people, and that includes politicians. And and this is why I always come back to, what are you going to do to reach your finish line? This is why I always come back to that, because that's essentially what's important. You might vote for someone that you think who has your best interest, and he or she gets into political office and do what they want to do, essentially doing things that benefit themselves and not you. And then, unfortunately, you're disappointed and you're angry, and maybe you protest. And but what happens? Many people, they do it all over again. They vote for someone else who essentially repeats the same pattern. So uh, sometimes it may feel like it's the only option, but the truth is, there is always another option. There's always other alternatives. And, I have seen many people within the last 2 years living very differently than they probably would live on a normal basis. But these people are doing what they believe that's going to take them to the finish line. And that's what I want for you. I want you to reach the finish line. you know, uh, nowadays, that we kind of live in these uncertain times, the country has opened back up. People have gone back to work. They want people to return to the office. This whole RTO, return to the office, and uh, companies are some areas they are begging people to take jobs. There's one fast food chain in Florida. They are so desperate for people that they are paying people just to come in for an interview. You don't even have to take the job. I think it's something like $40. They'll actually pay you just to come in for an interview because they are so desperate to find people. Due to this, great resignation, unfortunately, many people, for whatever reason, they have decided, well, I'm not going to work for a year or 2 years. You know, maybe they have some money saved up. Maybe they have family, friends, or other resources, or maybe they have another plan. Maybe they're going to, do some. They have these types of work exchanges called like WOOF, Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. Some people do that. HelpX and these other types of things, and a lot of people are kind of having their own, uh, unpaid time off to basically find some fulfillment in their life. And partially, I think that's really, really good. It's good to have fulfillment in your life. It's good to make money, but it's also good to have fulfillment in your life. But ultimately, I think uh, depending on what age you are, depending on your current circumstances, if you're a parent, if you're single, those things are important to consider when crafting a plan to reach your finish line. I have this 5 video playlist about the kind of the who, what, when, where, why of reaching the finish line. I'll definitely include a link in this video description. I advise you to really check that out. It is a great resource to help you clarify your goals and know that you don't have to be you don't have to be a particular person. You don't have to wait a particular time. Sometimes it is. Sometimes there might be some caveats, or there might be some extenuating circumstances where you might you might be a bit more limited, but the finish line is available, is there for everybody. So, when I'm looking at this, and if you have a comment, you have a question, don't be afraid to type it in there. I'll be happy to acknowledge that and reply to it. But one thing I've been noticing is in this type of situation, you have to kind of take your, especially let's talk about career, okay? So a person like me who lives abroad, you kind of have to take kind of have to take more of a creative approach to it. Not only if you are a person like myself, but even in the U.S., where unfortunately there has been kind of a certain areas there is a higher demand for employees. In other areas, not so much. In other areas, wages have increased more than other areas. So then you consider that with the cost of living, which in some areas is outpacing the wages. I say all of that to say this. many people are, struggling with, considering university or considering some type of technical school education or some type of educational credential to give them an edge, to give them a competitive advantage in the workforce, and nowadays with the student loan debt being over $1.5 trillion, that's not a very attractive option for most people. The government still off talking about the U.S. They still offer the U.S. Pell Grants, but if you go to a community college or maybe a very small 4-year public school, uh, maybe you can fund your entire yearly education with those grants. Otherwise, many people have to take out student loans, and unfortunately, that is one of the few type of debts you cannot discharge. That's with you for the rest of your life. So, you have to pay it. But, the president is talking about, forgiving $10,000 for everybody. He's been talking about this for a while. This hasn't happened. I don't think it's going to happen, to be honest. But I think the better approach to this is, if you want to further your education, is to look for how you can do it at the lowest possible cost and for the minimal amount of time. I mean, that's what everyone wants to do, right? So here's a tip. So you have these type of technical schools, right? So now, one thing that's great about some of these programs is it doesn't matter where you live in the world. Okay, you can live in the U.S., you can be an American living in another state or even another country. It doesn't matter. These types of programs are online and are very affordable. That you don't really need a grant. I mean, this is that affordable. So uh, I talked about this in a previous video. I'm going to do a quick recap for those of you who might not have watched all of my videos. Uh, Long time ago, I started a master herbalist program, and this was in 2009, I believe, a long time ago. And at the time, it was a master herbalist program. I graduated, it's a diploma, it's a certification. And, with that credential, I can use that to get a job. I mean, that was my intention initially, at least. I did start that, but I never finished. But until the pandemic happened, and I already paid for it a long time ago. I just had to, return and finish it. And that's what I did. I finished it, and I was very happy because I always believe you should finish what you started. But I say that to say there are many of those type of programs in where it's state approved. It is approved by the typically the State Department of Education, or is registered as a post-secondary school. Every state has their different laws, but these are state registered or state approved type of schools that you can use. You can use these educational credentials from these types of schools to get a job, maybe remotely, maybe not. However, in this school that I finished from, I knew some alumni who were able to get some jobs with that credential locally, and that just goes to show you that you don't have to go in a lot of student loan debt. Now, these programs at these types of schools can range anywhere between $1,000 to maybe $3,000, and that's for the whole program. That's for the whole program, and it's self-paced. It's online. And it's a, again, it's not something, it's not no diploma mill where you just pay somebody and they just give you a piece of paper. No, it's an actual program, like as if you would go to a regular school. But these are very niche, you know. So for example, the school I went to was called the Academy of Natural Health Sciences, and they had programs like aromatherapy, herbalism, like the one I took. But this type of school only specializes in health sciences. But there are other types of schools. There are universities that are approved by the state, but maybe not accredited by a regional accrediting agency. So some people, like, I think there's a lot of preference about that getting something accredited, and getting an accredited diploma, certificate, or degree gives you the most mileage. It has no limitations. And with that, you can do what you want. You can go to the other side of the country and you can get a job. However, just because something is not accredited, it doesn't always mean that it's lower quality or it's not good. You have to look at the situation and how it applies to you. And if I knew now, if I knew now, if I knew back then what I knew now, I wouldn't have had to take out any student loans. And as I said before, the great thing about this is wherever you live in the world, wherever you live in the world, you can do these self-paced online, and you can use this to potentially get a remote job. And that's the trend nowadays, and I think most people are starting to shift towards that. They want to have a life that's more flexible on their terms. And when it comes to places like Mexico or other places in Latin America, you know, record high of people from the US and Canada, because, you consider, when you have to, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but when you have to pay, almost $9 for a gallon of milk. Now, in Mexico, you can get something like that for $4.50, a gallon of milk. Uh, but when you have to pay almost $9 for a gallon of milk, um, you know, these are things to consider uh, if you want to continue with such a lifestyle in the USA. Some people are moving to other states. Some people moving to Texas and Florida and in other less popular states, less populated states too. And for some, for some people, um, uh, it might work well. You have to decide, what is best for your particular situation. African Dreamer said, hello. Okay. Hello, African Dreaming. Yeah. So I interviewed African Dreaming recently. I recommend that you check that video out. This is an expat couple that lives in Africa. Interesting interview. Definitely recommend you check that out. And we have another question here. Okay, so TD says, can you recommend a few careers that are affordable to study and relevant today? I am considering a second career. Thank you for your content. Thank you, TD, for being with me. Um, so, uh, like the example I gave with the Academy of Natural Health Sciences, that's a school, and where that same herbalist program that I took is $1,000. Most people you know, in the U.S., don't even need a grant for that because it's quite affordable. But but even a program like that has a payment plan. Has an interest-free payment plan. So a person could pay the thousands up front; they could make a few payments. But with programs like that, you don't have to worry about student loan debt. And these types of those specific programs, whether it's herbalism or aromatherapy, they have these what they call these alternative health clinics, and some people, some health health store owners, they're looking for people like that, looking for people who have these types of skills, and a person could go right into the workforce. I would imagine make anywhere between something like 12 to $15 an hour, and they did all of that with no student loan debt. They don't have to worry about that, which has been a barrier. Especially now considering that many Americans are maxing out their credit cards because inflation has been really brutal. It's crazy. Just I wish I had the link. If I find a link, I'm going to put it down. But there has been an increase in the last 2 years of Americans maxing out their credit cards just because that inflation has made the cost of living so overwhelming. And as I said before, there's always another option. So, African Dreamer said, "Is the expat community as expansive there as it is here on the continent?" So, African Dreamer is talking about Mexico. So, uh, yeah, so Mexico is a country, and you're in Tanzania, but I would say that so Mexico has like maybe a half a dozen kind of expat, the biggest expat bubbles. That's typically Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Tulum. That's on the Caribbean side. And then they have San Miguel de Allende. That's kind of the middle of the country. And Lake Chapala, that's another one. And then they also have one on the peninsula. They have the Baja Peninsula, where they have La Paz. And then you have Puerto Vallarta. So there's about a dozen. There's about a dozen of those expat communities, and I would say the biggest ones are probably those ones. There are expats in other parts of Mexico, but the communities are much smaller. And with the city being so big, sometimes people like us, we go unnoticed. Uh, we have a population of a city of 1 million people. You have, for example, 5,000 expats. It's almost like we're invisible. So uh, there are other communities. And also, when it comes to Mexico, there's a population of Afro Mexicans. I thought that was very interesting. You can find this community on the coast, in the state of Guerrero and also Oaxaca. And this is where you can find probably the largest concentration of Afro Mexicans. Uh, it's interesting, because when you see Afro Mexicans, like they don't have the Mexican features; they look like us. Talking about other African Americans. So I thought that was very interesting, and yeah, there's a few nice places in that area. So definitely, uh, definitely worth checking out. So also, uh, a lot of people, may ask, well, how do I take that step in the right direction? And uh, well, first of all, some people don't want to learn a new language. For example, the great couple I interviewed, African Dreaming, they live in Tanzania, and where the language there is Swahili. But Also, the language, they also speak English. So there's kind of a bilingual kind of society there, which is helpful. But some people want that. They want to have that option, but you have that's something you have to kind of draft a plan of kind of if you're thinking about living in another country, what is your criteria? What do you want? And if you don't want to speak another language, well, for example, in Central America, there is Belize. Belize speaks English. Many places speak English. They have two official languages, which is English and Spanish. So Belize is attractive to many people because they don't want to learn Spanish. In Mexico, there are some expat communities like Lake Chapala and San Miguel de Allende, where people speak no Spanish, besides, or they may say hola, but that's the totality of their Spanish. But there's places like that. There's places like that. TD says people in Veracruz, Mexico, have African roots. Yes, there is some there. Uh, yeah. African Mexican community in Guerrero Coast is still standing. I guess they mean that it's still prominent. Maybe it's still prominent. But most of them migrate north looking for opportunities. TD is actually right. Unfortunately, Afro Mexicans deal with a lot of poverty because so there are a few nice areas, in the Guerrero and Oaxaca area, but there are most of those areas, unfortunately, there are not a lot of jobs there. There's infrastructural problems. There's lack of development. So TD is right. TD is right. Many of them move north to states like Veracruz. It's very true. It's very true. So so first you have to decide your criteria. You have to decide what your criteria is, so language is one thing. Okay, weather is another thing. Okay, availability of healthcare or in the selection of healthcare, that's another thing, right? Your options. Food is another thing. Whether you want to live in a city or town, that's another thing. So these are types of questions that you have to ask yourself. For example, if you have a strong family connection, do you want to be far away from the U.S. or do you want to be somewhere closer? You know, that's another important question to ask yourself. Like for me, my parents are old, and their health is okay. It's not great. It's okay, but I do feel like it might be better to be here for a while, and plus my girlfriend is here too, so there's that. But it might be better to be here for a while, and maybe in the future, unfortunately, when they pass, I can consider living somewhere else. But one great thing about Mexico and many countries, also within Central America, is a short flight to the U.S. Very short flight. Typically, wherever you are in the U.S. is no more than 2 to 4 hours. So that's quite convenient, and that's that's one of the reasons why I think Mexico and also Central America appeals to a lot of people. See if we have any other comments. Uh, no. Okay. Well. All right. So we are coming. I'll go on for another 5 minutes. I thought there was gonna be more people, but I'm grateful for you, for TD, and you African Dreaming for being with me today. I know it's late, but actually for African Dreaming, it's the morning time for them. So yeah, I recommend checking out the interview I have with them. Very interesting interview. So, you know, so I feel like, this when it comes to this inflation, when we look at, this student loan debt, when we look at, a lot of these, these economic challenges that we're dealing with, I think it's more important than ever for people to look past the political system. You know, Fortunately, a lot of people put a lot of faith in that, and well, doesn't matter which way you lean on the political spectrum. It's it you know It still seems that the majority of people are not happy, which means that, well, okay, since politicians have had a track record of failing people, so what you have to ask yourself, what are you going to do for your life? You know, and and again, I know there's variables. Maybe people have kids, or I know there's variables, but you have to take take that time and think about that carefully, and envision, what do you want the rest of your life to be like, and then take steps to get there. That's what reaching the finish line is all about. Writing 2 books about that. If you haven't already, I recommend you check those out. But for many people, it's in another country, and for example, African dreaming is very happy there in Tanzania. I'm happy in Mexico. I see other expats in other countries, happy, but I think what I encourage people to do is to educate yourself beyond mainstream media. Because as soon as you get on mainstream media or you go to a travel state website, they're going to scare the crap out of you, and you're not going to want to go anywhere. They're going to tell you, as soon as you step in Mexico, you're going to get kidnapped, or don't go to this place in Africa because there's a war or whatever it is. Like they're going to scare the crap out of you, so you don't go anywhere. You know, and the truth is, there are very peaceful and pleasant places, and very prosperous places outside of the USA. You just have to, just take charge and see for yourself. Sometimes people do a discovery trip. They go somewhere for 2 weeks, for a month, to kind of talk to people there, experience it for themselves, and then the second trip, maybe they make the move or something like that. You know. TD has a question. Uh, where in the world do you think African Americans are moving the most? Wow, that's a good question. You know, and I think a lot of African Americans are typically going to Latin America, and I would say secondly Africa. I think those are the two areas specifically. You know, a lot of people go to Africa to kind of as opportunity to be in touch with their roots. Maybe they still have family there. In African Dreamers' case, African Dreaming had contacts there, so that made it easier for them, which is very, very smart. They already had contacts there, so for them, their transition was much easier than people who wouldn't have contacts there. So I think those two regions are among the most popular for African Americans. One thing you don't have to worry about is, at least in Mexico, they don't care if you're black or Mexican or whatever. They treat you like they treat everyone else. So a lot of those unfavorable conditions that ethnic minorities face, places like Mexico, places like Africa, places like other parts of the world, you get treated like everyone else. So I think that's one thing that a lot of ethnic minorities really appreciate, that they're treated like everyone else. They're not treated inferior, or they don't have to worry about you know a lot of the problems that still continues to happen in the USA. And I think I think this trend will continue. Um, Mexico in itself has 1.5 million expats in Mexico. 1.5 million. More Americans live in Mexico than any other foreign country in the world. But Mexico is not ideal for everybody. Uh, for example, I think Africa is probably one of the best areas to like. So there's a singer, Akon. I like a lot of his songs. And he was saying, he said like if you wanted to be rich in the fastest amount of time as possible, he says go to Africa. And I really agree with him with that, because the whole point is many Americans, we come from this whole developed mindset about how things they should be, In Africa, in some countries, they don't always have that context. And the same can be said for Latin American countries. They don't always have that context. They don't always have that vision. They don't always have that type of that structure, And by us bringing our ideas there, seeing what works in the U.S. well, and duplicating that in another country, I agree with Akon. Like literally, like people can go to Africa and potentially, they can have significantly more success than they would in the U.S. in a very short time. Yeah, because so there are those opportunities, and like I said, people can also do those type of things in Latin America, and I see that in Mexico. For example, we look at TD likes Akon songs too. Yeah, Akon is I like a lot of his songs. Um, so we see that in, for example, Mexico, right? So U.S. had Uber, and then Mexico created their own version of Uber. They have something called DD, basically it's Uber, and it just basically, and that's a Mexican brand, but that's all it really takes. It's just seeing what works in one country, and if you have the capital, or if you have the connections, or if you have the resources, you can duplicate that in your country or in your adopted country, assuming that you want to kind of be an entrepreneur. If not, that's fine too. I did a video. I'll put a card or put it in description about if you wanted to just work remotely, whether you want to do some type of internship or apprenticeship or remote job, or I actually have a whole list, and the great thing about this is many people are eligible for all of these types of work situations, and you can get on average $15 an hour, and I can definitely tell you $15 an hour in the developing world, and in any Latin American country or African country, it goes a very, very long way. Some people always think, man, I wish I could live like this person or this person or this person, and their income limits them to a certain lifestyle. But if you take that income to another country, you can live, you can basically upgrade your lifestyle. I'll give you one example. There's these gated communities, in the US, the average person in the US cannot afford to live in a gated community. That's just the reality. These are type of communities where they have security guards, typically with guns. Very nice. Typically there's a large park in these gated communities. There's a swimming pool, and there's these other amenities, sometimes even a library. These other amenities in these gated communities. And in the U.S., you're going to pay anywhere between three to $4,000 a month to live like that. There are some kind of more modest gated communities, and maybe you'll pay 2 to 3,000. Okay, maybe if you're in Nebraska or someplace like that. But the truth is, They have a lot of these same places in other countries. You know, in Mexico. My girlfriend and I, we lived in one of these gated communities in Querétaro. It looked exactly the same, well, very similar to a gated community in the US. It had a big park in a gated community. It had a skateboard park. If you wanted to do the skateboard, it had a basketball court. It had a grocery store inside the gated community. I'm talking about an actual grocery store. I'm not talking about not talking about a 7-Eleven. It had an actual grocery store inside the gated community. It had a pharmacy. It had a pharmacy. It had a doctor's office. Basically, it was so well equipped that if you didn't want to, you wouldn't need to leave the gated community because it basically had almost everything you needed. My girlfriend and I lived in that gated community. We lived in one of the neighborhoods there inside. We It was a two bedroom, one bathroom house, all on one floor. Uh, I know this is hard to believe. I know this is hard to believe, but this is the truth. We paid. I paid $350 a month, and this is all utilities included. So I wasn't paying water, wasn't paying electricity, wasn't paying internet. The apartment was fully furnished. $350 a month. This was in 2018, 2019. And that's just one example of what's possible. For example, I'll give you another example, okay? We live, my girlfriend and I, we live in a city 2 hours from Mexico City. Okay, we live close to the center or downtown, and we same thing. Two-bedroom apartment, two bathrooms. Maybe one day I'll show you the whole apartment. But two bedrooms, two bathrooms, all utilities included. And overall, I'm paying US dollars, $480 a month. Okay. So imagine in the USA, yeah, something like that. You want to pay, some areas 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, and you might have to pay for utilities. So this is, it's a very nice apartment. Very happy with it. It has a balcony. So we basically have exclusive access to the balcony. We go upstairs to the balcony, can see the whole, can have a nice balcony view of the city. Have a garage, where I keep the car, and all of that. $480 a month. And of course, there has been inflation here, but inflation has been minimal. So yeah, I don't, I want to make that clear. Mexico has been affected by inflation, but it's been minimal compared to the U.S. I've seen the prices there, and it still amazes me. So TD says, yes, Mexico is very affordable for expats, and Mexicans are famous for being kind and welcoming to expats. I know some of them who claim they are living the Mexican dream. Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah, uh, yeah. TD is right. TD is right, and and um, yeah, Mexicans are in many cases very kind to foreigners. Very kind to foreigners, and most foreigners that I talk to, they agree. They always feel welcome when they come to Mexico. Um, Now, I want to state one thing. You do have to be careful in the touristy areas. And that's the case anywhere. For example, if you go to Africa, You know, I'm sure, for example, Tanzania, maybe African Dreaming can tell you about the very touristy areas there. You know, or if you go to Spain, I'm sure someone can tell you about the very touristy areas there. Or if you go to, for example, you go to somewhere in Asia, I'm sure people can tell you about the very touristy cities in that country. Yeah, you know, you have to be careful of those because sometimes they have this jaded view of foreigners that they think that, oh, we come here, we're rich, and they give us the gringo tax or the foreigner tax, and they try to get as much money from all of us while we're there. And you know so I always prefer to see the more authentic version of the country. I've always preferred that. Even here in Mexico, see many beautiful places that are not popular among American tourists or Canadian tourists. Not popular, but very beautiful places that are more popular among Mexicans because it's their country. But I those types of touristy areas, I would suggest avoiding. I think for a vacation or going there for a weekend or a week, I think it's fine. But I think in the long, I think living there, yeah, because sometimes I notice that when a Mexican is used to a Mexican is used to whether helping or selling something to an American or being a waiter or whatever, they're used to Americans giving them the same types of tips that Americans would pay other Americans in the USA, which is, so for example, in the US, Americans can tip anywhere between $5 to $15. If you give if you give a Mexican a $10 tip, in most cases, that's a whole day of wages. He or she will probably just take the rest of the day off. And the thing about it is they get used to that in places like Tulum, Cancun, and all these other touristy places. They get used to that. So when regular Mexicans come into the restaurants for service, now they don't want to help them because they know, oh, well, if I help, they're going to waste my time. They're only going to give me less than $1 where I can focus on these foreigners and I'll get $5 to $10 per group, So I try not to contribute to that, So this is why I like to go to the areas where there is a very small expat community or there's no expat community at all, and but some people prefer the capital cities or the big expat areas because maybe it's might be a soft landing or easy transition. But yeah, as I said before, this is why you have to have your criteria of what you want in your adopted country. Okay, thank you for joining African Dreaming. Thank you. So yeah, so um, so yeah, I think kind of coming back around, coming to a close because we'll be coming close to the hour marker soon. You know, when people, I can't necessarily give uh, 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 advice that's going to apply to everybody because everybody has different situations and are in different circumstances. So, but what I can suggest, and that is universal for everybody, is that you can start reaching your finish line. That's universal. Okay. Doesn't matter who you are. Okay. It doesn't matter where you're from, what part of the world, doesn't matter. You can reach the finish line. As I said before, I wrote 2 books about that. Recommend you check them out. I have a playlist that I will include in the video description if you want to check that. And after you watch the playlist, if you want more, you can consider getting one or both of those books. But you know, it seems like the biggest problem that's facing a lot of people in North America, in Europe, you know, I saw news articles, in France, in England. Unfortunately, there is a shortage of blankets because in those areas it's colder. France, England, it's colder. It's colder than, for example, area like Texas or North Carolina. There's a shortage of blankets. And what retailers have done is they have significantly raised the price of blankets because they know that people cannot afford the extra expense of heating their homes due to inflation. So more people were running to stores trying to find blankets. Retailers call on and they significantly increase the prices of blankets. And unfortunately, the Europeans there, they still have to pay an extra cost, unfortunately, and because of inflation. So this inflation is a significant economic problem that's affecting people all around the world. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't say before. It doesn't matter where you are on a political spectrum. It doesn't matter about that. Doesn't matter of your affinity to uh, Eastern Europe or you know what matters you know is probably affect this inflation is probably affecting you as much as it's affecting a lot of people. And the question is, what are you going to do? Maybe you could tell me in the chat. Maybe you could tell me in the comment section. If you're watching, if you see this video after this live stream, maybe you could tell me in a comment. What are you going to do? Are you going to maybe move to another state? In the U.S. or in your country? Are you going to move to another country? Are you going to become a minimalist? That can help. There's a lot of benefits to minimalism. Okay. Are you going to, maybe sell your house and live in a trailer? That's an option too. There are some very nice travel trailers, and people they go to what they call them. They go to U.S. National parks and what they call BL Bureau of Land Management areas where they can place their trailer there for free for a certain period of time, and they just do that every few months and see the world. And that could be a sustainable way. But what are you going to do? Because if you don't know what you're going to do, and if maybe you think it's better to complain and blame other people rather than take responsibility for your own for your current situation, well, unfortunately, you won't reach the finish line. And I don't want that for you. I want you to reach the finish line. You have to ask yourself, what's that first step? Maybe you are fine. Maybe everything's okay with you. Maybe you're one of the people in the US that earns significantly more than other people, and maybe you have a friend in a situation as we're discussing. Maybe you can share this video with a friend, you know, just because uh, just because the inflation for people who have maybe higher paying jobs, just because the inflation hasn't affected you now, it doesn't mean it won't affect you by the end of this year or next year. As I'm not sure if you've been following it as closely as I have. As we have seen, it's just been going up and up and up. It's only a matter of time before it starts affecting upper middle class people. It's going to take longer, but eventually it will affect them. So, what are you going to do? TD says, that's a good question. I think everybody are wondering how to navigate inflation nowadays. Looks like it will only increase. Yeah, maybe a second career can help. Yeah, a second career, yeah, or just maybe finding a way to pivot using your existing work skills and maybe adding some others to complement them, and that could possibly allow you to pivot into another career. The truth is, education is becoming more affordable than ever because universities realize that they can't do they can't do those crazy sales pitches and get students to go to pay $30,000 a year and they know they can't do that anymore. They know that, so now universities are being flexible now. Now you see that these private universities are offering more scholarships. They have to. They have to because they know that people they know that they're living in a different reality. And as a result, they have to compensate if they want to stay in business, specifically the private universities. But education has become more affordable than ever. And I'm going to talk more about this. If you have questions, be sure to leave it in the comment. I'd be happy to, possibly answer your question in another video. And maybe I'll do one of these live streams. I'll do one next month, maybe towards the end of next month. Maybe I'll do that. TD says all income streams are good. Good advice here. Yeah, and really you have to be conscious of your skill set, because some skills become, unfortunately, irrelevant over time. So, example, I got my associate's degree in automotive technology. Okay, this was way before there was all these hybrid cars and electric cars and these all these alternative. Yeah, I got like a very like an old school auto tech degree where regular gasoline car that doesn't have a bunch of electronics and all that. But nowadays, that was over 10 years ago. Nowadays, more cars are have different designs and upgraded technology. And for a person even who had an associate's degree in automotive tech, a person, if I wanted to, which I'm not interested in at all, I'm doing pretty well, I have to say. Uh, but if I had to go back, or if I was interested to do that, I would have to relearn a whole new interface of automotive technology. There will be some similar things, obviously, like an oil drain plug and the parts, but obviously, like I couldn't take my skills and just go to a Honda or Toyota dealership because they would be outdated, and I would have to learn many new things. So I say that to say it's very important to be conscious of the relevance of your skills because we live in a fast growing society where things change a lot, and it's very important to us, when you are deciding to learn something new, to see how relevant will it be um, in the future. You know, things like blockchain technology, cybersecurity, those types of things. They're probably going to be a part of our lives for the next decade or so. Those types of things. Also, there's other fields, of course, but that's what I want you to consider. There are programs like Coursera, which actually their Coursera Plus is a great value. Uh, uh, and that's something I'll talk about in another video. But and there are also, as I said before, there are state approved universities. Maybe they don't have accreditation, or they are in the process of accreditation. But sometimes in local areas that might be enough. You know, because not all employers require an accredited degree. Okay, for example, if you're working for government, you're working for a government institution, they will require that. Or if you work for one of the big Fortune 500 or Forbes 500, likely they will require that. Okay, but if you're working for some type of some type of alternative health clinic, it's a very good chance that as long as you have the skills to do the job, that's what they care about. So uh, accreditation is not always signifies a quality education because I can definitely tell you, the community, the schools that I have went to in the past, as well as others, can definitely tell you some stories. And again, that has to be left for another video. I am very happy that you have joined me for this video. Maybe you have watched it up till the end. Again, if you have any comments, be sure to leave a comment in the comment section there. Comment and perhaps I could use that to talk about what you're saying in possibly a future video or a future live stream. Okay. Well, yeah. So I also want to suggest, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you always get the videos as I publish them in that moment. And also be sure, to give the video a like. It's always appreciated. And again, you know, uh, it's my intention for you to reach the finish line. And that's what I want for you. That's what I want for everybody. And as I said before, maybe you're watching this video and you really know that you know somebody who really can benefit from this video. Be sure to share that video with them. Okay. So, okay. TD says, bye, Colin. See your next live video. Thank you, TD, for joining. I appreciate it. And thank you for everyone who has watched this video. And until next time, I hope you are reaching the finish line.